Most people think intelligence is something you're born with, a number stamped on your brain at birth that you can't change. That belief alone is why 99% of people will never become truly smart. Not because they lack the ability, but because they've been lied to about how the brain actually works. Let me tell you about a boy named Daniel. Growing up, Daniel was never the smart kid in class. He struggled with math, he read slower than everyone else. Teachers labeled him average, and average kids get treated like average kids. Low expectations, less attention, a quiet message repeated every single day. This is who you are, stop trying so hard. But Daniel had one habit that made no sense to anyone around him. Whenever he got a question wrong, he didn't move on. He sat with it. He forced himself to figure out why he was wrong before anyone gave him the answer. His friends thought he was wasting time. His teachers thought he was slow. What none of them knew is that Daniel was accidentally doing something neuroscientists would later prove is one of the most powerful ways to build intelligence. Here's what's actually happening inside your skull. Every time you learn something new, your neurons fire electrical signals to each other. Around the pathways those signals travel, your brain wraps a fatty substance called myelin. Think of myelin like insulation on a wire. The thicker the insulation, the faster and cleaner the signal travels. Scientists at institutions like Stanford and UCL have shown that skill and intelligence are not just about how many facts you know. They're about how efficiently your brain fires the right signals at the right time. And myelin only thickens under one condition: repeated, effortful struggle. This is the part nobody tells you. Struggle is not a sign that you're bad at something. Struggle is the mechanism. It's the gym for your neurons. Every time you strain to solve a hard problem, instead of immediately looking up the answer, you are physically thickening the wiring in your brain. This is why kids who grow up sheltered from difficulty, who get every answer handed to them, often plateau. Their brains never get the resistance training they need. There's a name for what Daniel was doing without knowing it. Psychologists call it productive failure. A researcher named Manu Kapoor ran a study comparing two groups of students learning the same math concept. One group was taught the correct method first, then given practice problems. The other group was given the hard problems first, told to struggle and fail repeatedly, and only taught the correct method afterward. Common sense says the first group should win. They had the answer from the start, but the opposite happened. The group that struggled and failed first outperformed the other group on every test that followed. Their brains had already built the neural scaffolding, trying to solve the problem, so when the real answer arrived, it slotted in and stuck permanently. This is the first secret to becoming insanely smart. Stop avoiding confusion, start seeking it out. When you read a chapter and understand it too easily, you probably won't remember it in a week. But when you close the book and force yourself to explain the idea from memory, struggling to recall it, you're doing what scientists call the generation effect. Actively generating an answer, even a wrong one, builds a stronger memory trace than passively reading the correct one 10 times. Eventually, Daniel turned this instinct into a system. Before opening any textbook, he'd ask himself the hardest possible question about the topic and try to answer it from nothing. He'd fail almost every time, but that failure primed his brain to absorb the real lesson twice as fast. By college, the boy who was labeled average was solving problems his professors called exceptional. Nothing about his birth had changed. What changed was how he trained the 3 pounds of tissue sitting behind his eyes. But there's a second layer most people miss completely. Intelligence isn't just about how hard you struggle, it's about how you structure that struggle over time. Cramming one subject for 5 hours straight feels productive, but your brain barely encodes it. Spacing that same 5 hours across 5 days, with sleep in between each session, dramatically increases retention. This is because deep sleep is when your hippocampus literally replays the information you learned that day, transferring it into long-term storage in your cortex. Skip sleep, and you're throwing away half the work you just did. So here's the framework if you want to actually apply this instead of just watching another video and forgetting it in an hour. First, before learning anything new, spend 2 minutes trying to solve or explain it without help. Let yourself fail. Second, after you learn the real answer, close every resource and try to explain the concept out loud in your own words, like you're teaching a 12-year-old. If you stumble, that stumble is showing you exactly what your brain hasn't wired yet. Third, space your learning sessions across days instead of cramming, and protect your sleep like it's part of the study session itself, because it is. None of this requires talent. It requires a willingness to feel stupid on purpose on a regular basis, because that discomfort is the exact price of admission for a stronger brain. Every person you've ever called a genius simply paid that price more often than everyone else around them. The moral is simple. Intelligence isn't a gift some people get and others don't. It's a muscle disguised as a mystery. The people who seem scary smart aren't smarter by nature. They just stopped running from confusion a long time ago and started walking straight into it. If this changed how you think about learning, subscribe, because this channel exists to hand you the parts of self-improvement nobody else is teaching you. See you in the next one.